Thank you for joining us this morning, Chris. I'm gonna do a very quick intro. I know you're not big into airs and graces, but just like a really quick one for people who might not know who you are. We are being joined this morning by Chris Sonnex, who is an award-winning director and the former artistic director of the Bunker Theatre, which has sadly closed, and we'll talk about that later on in the interview. Chris also won the 2020 Offies Award for Artistic Director of the Year, and he is currently an associate artist with High Tide Theatre Company. Hi, Chris!
Hello.
So,
sound a little bit like an obituary, but okay.
Introductions for interviews always sound like that. It's just like, here's a list of all the things that they do. So the first official question, which I think is probably the most important question of our bizarre times right now, is how are you? How are you doing?
As well as a white cis het man can do. So, I mean,
So fantastically.
yeah, I'm pretty good.
Fantastic.
I mean, listen, I don't want to take that away, like to be flippant about it, but equally, people are dying. Do you know?
Truly.
Because of poverty, because of race, because of all of those things. So yeah, I'm apart from the strain on your sort of mental health and worry about, because I'm still really fundamentally that working class council estate boy, consistently worried about whether I'm getting paid next, or you know what I mean, or if I get a job, which takes a strain on your mental health. And then I had to come off Twitter for a little bit because I was just taking all of that energy, do you know what I mean? Like, and watching my friends be hurt and not being able to do anything, well, at least on social media anyway. So I had to take myself off for a bit, I think, because I had a bit of a mental.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I'm back now though. Although, like, very limited. I don't have the app on my phone or nothing. But yeah, so I'm doing all right, basically. Okay. How are you doing, more importantly?
I'm doing all right. It is mad. It is mad. It's so weird to think that the world has changed so much in 6 months. Like, I feel like the last 6 months has been 6 years. It's so weird to think that January was this year, but going all right. I'm not going to take up too much time because people are here to listen to you talk about you.
The wrong way round. The wrong way around.
You're so humble, Chris. Okay, so changing the topic back to you, and I'm going to make you really uncomfortable this whole Instagram live because I'm just going to make you talk about yourself constantly. Tell us a little bit about your artistic journey to where you are now, because everything pretty much started for you as like stage crew at the Royal Court, right?
Yeah, it feels like you've done your research.
Well, I've met you once and you mentioned it, and I was like, I'm gonna put that away in my little mind cabinet.
Yeah, I was on the dole after I'd graduated the second time. It was still a recession, surprise, thanks stories. And I couldn't get a job in anything. I couldn't even get a job in retail, which is actually one of the reasons why I went to university, because I worked in Harrods in the toy department and was like, I can't do this anymore. So yeah, I graduated and there was a job from the Royal Court. I say job, I mean unpaid internship, to go into the Bussey building. And the Bussey building in Peckham, when they were doing a thing called Theatre Local, and to help with the production of the two shows that were there. And really I didn't know what that meant, but what it actually meant was that I was painting toilets and creating a theatre space in what was, before it was the Bussey building and went through its levels of cool and then not cool. It was like an underground rave place, like warehouse that was just grim, I actually met my partner there, fun story, but I didn't get with them until about 5 years later, but anyway.
No, don't. But anyway, let's segue. Tell us this story, and then I'll bring us back.
Anyway, so we I did that, and the crew boys were like, this is what one of the head of lighting actually at the time of the Royal Court, who's now at the National. He started giving me a fiver a day just to get some food, actually, because I didn't have anything. I was waiting for the dole and all of that, and I was walking to Peckham from Bermondsey, which isn't too far, but still.
Mm.
And then they went, "Do you want to come in? We're going to pay you. We'll come in and we'll pay you, and we do the show." So I started doing the get-ins and the get-outs, and then they trusted me with pressing buttons at one point, which I fucked up. And that's 11 o'clock in the morning, but you're going to get a lot of swears, just so you
It's
all
all
know.
right. We're setting the tone.
Yeah, and then so I started doing that for a little bit, and I was working in a sofa shop at the same time. And then Vicky started at the Royal Court, sort of when I just got a job in admin. And the reason I got the job in sort of admin, it's called theatre assistant, whatever that means. Theatre roles have just got so much ridiculous names.
So big.
But fundamentally, what it meant was ordering paper clips and fixing photocopiers. And then and Vicky had these sort of away days with all of the team when she first started and all of that stuff. And she basically asked me what I wanted to do and why wasn't I doing it over time. And I said I wanted to work in a council estate around the corner, which is where I grew up, but I didn't know the Royal Court was a theatre. And so I said, there's something fundamentally wrong there. If we're civic spaces, then we should be engaging with the local council estates. And there's a lot in Pimlico, actually. One of the biggest ones in the world at one point, Churchill Gardens. So she said, "All right, then go on then." And then I was like, "What? What do you mean go on again?" So me and Ola Anamashuan, who is an actual low-key legend. If you don't know him, look him up. He works at the National now. For the connections department, or connections dramaturg, but he set up loads of stuff, and he's just a legend. If you know, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then so we went out and we just did basically a writers group for some old people, because that was the only people that would listen to us at the time. And then it expanded from there. It was quite successful, and then Vicky went, "Okay, cool, you're going to do this then." So then I've gradually ended up working my way to be an artistic associate, but I was in charge of all of the community work with Hamish, Piri, and Dan Brody. Yeah, and that is it's just Vicky mostly.
It's mad how that's kind of like almost the dream journey, isn't it? In arts, it's just meeting that right person who creates the inroads.
Let me tell you why it's an actual dream journey, because it's nice that the person recognizes you, but what I think is the best way is that I have an understanding, a very basic understanding of how crew works, how lighting works, how sound works, how the admin of a building works, how the development department works, the marketing department. So because I've had to have conversations with all of them and work in loads of those departments in that same building, so I have this acknowledgement of that. And then of course I'm learning to make work while Vicky and Hamish Piri and John Tiffany and Lucy Morrison and Elise Dodgson when she was alive, rest her soul. Lynn Gagliano, same, when she was alive. And so you get all of these brilliant artists around, and you just become a better artist, I think. And I think I probably got a little bit of everybody in my art, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is nice. So that's really why it's such a dream journey, I guess, which is probably unheard of. So don't anyone take an unpaid internship in crew just to be
in the hopes to follow in Chris Sonnex's
footsteps. Yeah, I'm just lucky, really.
So what came in between becoming an associate artist at the Royal Court and becoming the artistic director of Bunk Theatre in 2018?
Unemployment. So that's what happened. I did some bits and bobs. I did some stuff mostly for the outreach departments or the youth departments, which I love. But I love because it's still making theatre, and everybody should know that it shouldn't be a different theatre concept. It's the same thing. And I did some for the Donmar, I did some for the Almeida, and that was interesting. But mostly unemployed. Yeah. I went with my friend Danny to go and fix up a house at one point.
I think it's really important to talk about those periods of unemployment, because I think it's so easy to get down on yourself when you're an artist and you're not
Mm,
constantly working as an artist. And every time you meet people, like, oh, what are you working on? Where would I have seen you? And if you're not working on stuff, it's like, am I still an artist? So I think it's really good to normalize the sort of
definitely, like a
necessity
hundred
of
percent.
earning money.
The necessity of earning money is massive to figure out in your brain, and is actually why it's such a big thing for working class, benefit class, criminal class, and when I say working class and all of those derivatives, I do mean of all colours the intersectionality of that, because I know when people say working class, they think white, and that's not true. But if you grow up in poverty at any given point, you are completely sort of constantly grateful for the scraps that people send at you, and then if nobody's throwing scraps at you, you feel invalidated.
Yeah.
um, and useless, and it's difficult. It's a really difficult thing for your mental health, and then you think that maybe working in a pub or something is failing, but actually there are people that choose to work in pubs for their careers, and that's not failing to them. The whole thing about working in Tesco's over the lockdown situation, which is lovely and great, and I'm glad that people are working, but also sort of that sort of hyper ridiculous like sexualization, I suppose, of some point, of like, oh look, I've just booked another job on, I'll be coming on stage in Tesco Surrey Quays,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm like, yeah, that is someone's job though, do you know? Like,
Yeah.
it's not a
Yeah.
holiday.
Exactly.
um but nevertheless, the, the poverty is real, and the fear of it, even if you're doing okay, even if you, I mean, at every given point through the bunker, and I wasn't getting paid particularly well because we couldn't. Everybody was getting exactly the same, which is good. Yay. But we were all on shit money, really. And and it put me in debt. But all the way through that, I'm going, well, when this job ends, I'm going to be screwed.
Mm,
And what do I do? Because let's face it, yeah, all of those awards and stuff, they're really lovely, but they come and go. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
and also that doesn't mean that everybody knows you or everyone's thinking about you. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
And ultimately, when I said to my family, I say family is very, very small, my stepdad and my mum, uh, that I was in the stage 100. They both looked at me like, "Oh, proud, but what the fuck are you talking about? What is it? What's the stage 100?" Do you know what I mean? Do you think my friends that I grew up with know what that is? That doesn't pay the bills. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah. Yeah.
uh,
While we're talking about the bunker,
mm,
what was that like? The short time that we were blessed with it being here. I actually got to perform at the bunker twice, and that building was just like a mad thing. Like, it was so cool to be in a place that felt like holistic.
mm,
Like, there wasn't any sort of like hierarchy between people who were front of house, the people who were performing, or the audience, or anything. Like, everyone was there on the same plane. From like my perspective, both as an audience member and as a performer at different areas of time. And like, how do you achieve that? How do you get that sort of community feeling embedded so within the heart of a theater building?
it's difficult because sometimes I think that I ran the bunker not too similar to the Royal Court, I guess, in ways, but because the Royal Court is an institution, there's there's loads of different hierarchical sort of concepts there, and there's middle management, and there's all of that stuff. But luckily, I guess for us, is that the constraints that we had were made a perfect storm, I guess, because we only really had 5 members of staff, 6 members of staff, and so that I didn't have to flow up to the board what we were
Mm,
going to do, because the board didn't exist. There was no board.
mm,
Um, and also I'd spent the last 5 6 years listening to people and knowing and trying to figure out what they wanted, in communities, actually, and artists that weren't middle class white, cis het, you know what I mean? So I sort of felt, well, it's an offering, isn't it? It's go, I'm going to, obviously I'm programming it, but you're all valid if you're not programmed or not. Like if you are, you're all valid. The space itself, however, is quite democratizing. Because it's like it feels like you're part of it. Even
Mm.
it's kind of magic. It's interesting because we had loads of well, in my time, loads of one women shows, and it didn't feel like that they were in a massive, vast space world. Do you know? Like,
Mm.
but then when we had Welcome to the UK on, which was sort of 20 refugees and European citizens. It didn't feel like it was crowded, so it felt weirdly like it was okay. I
Yeah.
think I think also that if you if you have a bar that's quite, you're all sort of on top of each other. You couldn't do that now. You couldn't even do that. Like if we were still open and they let the social distancing performances happen, we couldn't. I don't think we could function.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the bar is, you're all on top of each other. Then there's music playing. There's normally some music that Chris enjoys. Uh, and also everybody's working, everybody's doing something. So that everybody, I had to do usher shifts. I didn't really like doing the usher shifts, just the truth of the matter, but I was still doing, duty managing shifts, still doing them. I thought they were important. I found it really difficult because people wanted to talk to me and I was trying to do another job, and it felt so it was, but working on the bar is different because people want to have alcohol more than they want to talk to the artistic director. So like, it was easier, but anybody could be anybody at any given point. So you could walk in and the artistic director might be looking at your tickets or serving you a pint, or the executive director might be ushering you in, or all of that
Yeah.
stuff. So there
Yeah.
was a bit of yeah. I mean, it was a bit. I guess it's a bit punk, really. I guess in some ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Um, it's kind of, yeah, it was kind of revolutionary in a way. Um, and I'm actually gonna just in a second gonna ask you about the closure, which was heartbreaking. But for everyone who's watching, I am keeping an eye on the comments. So if you want to ask any questions, like pop them in, and I will write them down and ask Chris at some point. It doesn't have to just be my question. So if there's anything on your mind, please like put it in. We're a community. It's all good. So back to the bunker. The closure. How in this moment, I'm really conflicted about it because as heartbreaking as it was and still is at this moment, I think what you said is right in that the way the bunker operated can't be the way it would have operated now. So, what kind of feelings do you have towards having to have closed the theater, especially within the situation that we find ourselves nowadays?
I think that having to close the theatre beforehand was more, because it feels like you could just be annoyed at somebody, and that would
Mm.
be property developers. Do you know? Like,
Yeah,
and
for
that's
sure.
yeah,
Absolutely.
and that's sort of fine. I guess because you've got a bogeyman that's like right there, and you can blame them. Um, but with Corona closing all the other theatres that it's closing too, it's sad, but it's also, look at everything else it is doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it's just scary,
Yeah.
and really like, oh my God, that theatre is, I love that theatre, or I hate that theatre. It doesn't matter. Like, the fact that these people are getting unemployed and redundant and all of that stuff is, it's just shit. But who are you blaming? Like, because nobody's going back to the bat or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
like, it's the inability of the government, I suppose, is what you're going to blame. But it's also what, that doesn't change anything. I mean, we've always been blaming the government because they're shit. Do you know?
Yeah.
you know. So what's new there? I think
Yeah.
when the bunker closed, when the bunker we were told that the bunker was closed, at least we had a build up also. So I could go, well, okay, cool. Doesn't matter then. We just put everything we had on stage, all of the resources, all of the money that we could do, we put it on stage. And let's not be like glib about it, but I think David Ralph did a really incredible job because he was the
Mm.
executive director, and he was doing all of the stuff um, that made my vision and my world um, easier. And I was doing mental stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, I put a working pub in a theatre,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
that is insane. Like for a fringe theatre, and for the budgets that we had, and listen, we didn't even break a budget. I think we were under budget because of Zara, who was our production manager, and like fucking amazing. But it shouldn't have been able to be possible. But what I do know is probably that it wouldn't have been able to continue like that probably because we would have just bankrupted ourselves maybe. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? And also we
Yeah.
all were getting paid whatever, quite low wages in comparison to everybody else in theatre, I guess.
Yeah.
And trying our hardest to pay everybody also. Like, I mean, all of the artists were definitely paid, and we helped all of the Arts Council funding and all of that stuff. But we couldn't carry it on, I don't think. I think we would have all probably just keeled over and died. I spent too much time there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's an underground car park. I was see-through by the end of it. Do you know what I mean? And then I quit.
Yeah.
And then the worst thing is that I quit smoking, so I couldn't even go out. I didn't even have an excuse to go outside. So it was a lot.
The only time that quitting smoking has actually been less healthy for somebody. And while we're talking about theatre in the age of Corona, my white best friend had 2 runs at the Bunker and just recently finished its online run with the Royal Court, which is oddly sort of like full circle for you. How was that, seeing that sort of have a renewed life online, and how are you feeling about this sort of digital theatre that we're kind of having to do at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's. I'm enormously proud of my like best friend and what it does and what it does to hold people. It is started as a very very tiny conversation between me and Rachel on a text message back and forth, and because I remember seeing that letter in the Bush's Black Lives Black Words, and there was also another incredible piece, and I wish I remembered who did it, but it was about Sandra Bland, and it was incredible. It was just amazing. But I can't remember who it is. But I know Rachel because of the court. So it was there, and it was in my brain. And then I thought, well, that would be a good thing to do, wouldn't it? That would be a nice democratizing sort of world to continue. And we talked about it a little bit, and then Millie came on board, and then Nate and Millie and Rachel just sort of cemented it. I mean, there's no they pushed it so far. Because it's their experiences and like I said before, I mean, like, yeah, I can see the injustice, but also I'm not the victim of it. Well, I'm not the victim of it most of the time, like so it was right that they continue to push it forward, and to see it at the Royal Court is like, it's like a baby going back to its grandmother, I guess, in some ways. Like,
Yeah.
And it was lovely. I mean, I didn't get to see all of them because I was working in the evenings, but I saw Thursday, and it was brilliant. It was amazing. But more importantly, what I thought was probably amazing, I wasn't in those rooms, was the breakout rooms afterwards that held Black people and allowed people to talk. And I think a lot of that theatre that we created in the Bunker was also about that moment. Like go with that. It's a theatre starting now. So it's the place finished, so the theatre starting. And like so like we Anchor is an example of having a pub there, so people just stayed there and they were talking about the show, but then they might have been talking about gentrification, or they might have been talking about this or that, or nothing. But it was nice that they were staying there. I'm incredibly proud, and Rachel and Millie and all of it, and in fact the mega Toby, like from Black Ticket Project, who's just was producing it. She's obviously just the greatest human in the history of the world. And Sylvia, who's their stage manager, and Duramani, my boy, who was putting some banging tunes on. Like, that's like what a lovely thing for the world to see. And that's what you get when you have that platform, when you get to the Royal Court, is that you can get those hundreds and hundreds of people to come in like that, actually. Whereas it was a little, I mean, not to say that my best friend through the 2 runs of the Bunker was like sold out almost instantaneously, like,
Yeah.
and so maybe it would have just done it anyway, but like, it was great, it was brilliant. So well done then, team my white best friends. Really proud of all of them. Proud for them, actually, because I didn't have anything to do with it. But digital content I find interesting because what I've realised, uh, what I think is the problem is that people have gone, we can do this on film and on our phones and on Zoom, and they've just made work for the conceit, do you know? This is the concept, so we're just going to do the concept, but they've forgotten a little bit about the art, do you know?
Mm, hmm
So it's because the art should inform the form, right?
hmm Yeah.
And but it felt a lot to me that a lot of that stuff that was coming out over the lockdown period was forming the art.
hmm
um, and also it sometimes when there was some exceptions. There's some really beautiful pieces, and I'm not bagging on all of it or any of it really, because it's important that bit was made. But if form is informing the art, or if the current circumstances are informing the art, sometimes that art isn't as good as it could be. um, and so it felt a little bit like we were possibly seeing the same stuff over and over again. Do you know what I mean? The
mm
exception, like the Bush work for Black Lives Matter was phenomenal. All of that, do you know, and
mm
that would be an exception. Do you know what I mean?
mm
But ultimately, because art has a fermenting period, doesn't it? That instead of it needs a
mm.
moment, and it
Yeah.
needs a team together as well. Also, would you notice that like sometimes I've seen it, and I've gone, oh yeah, just remembered why actors need directors sometimes. Do you know? Sometimes, so yeah, so I'm not particularly the biggest fan of it, but also I am, in theory, if you had more time or infrastructure
Mm,
or ability to do it. Well, the last thing that the bunker released was Katrina Shoebridge's "Where Do We Go Next,"
mm,
which coincidentally were film projects, and then Corona hit, and then all of a sudden we had film projects. We were like the first people to have film projects
yeah.
but they were great and brilliant, and like hats off to Kat, but they were also made for a complete different purpose.
Yeah.
Like, so I think that they felt a bit different,
Yeah, I
personally.
think that's fair. That's fair.
Mm.
We've actually got a couple of questions coming in already. So this one is from Yasmin Arden. And they ask, what was the most interesting or surprising discovery you made about yourself and theater while being AD at the bunker?
My body doesn't like being underground. What was this? Hey, Yasmin, how you doing? Um, that was weird, wasn't it? It was like I was on a children's TV program. Hey, Yasmin. Um, the most surprising thing, I think, the most surprising thing is how. This is the most surprising thing about me is how much I could be a bit more like a politician.
Mm,
Um, uh, what I didn't realize that innately in me, I had this voice. Well, I knew I had a voice, but to go, I can do this and I can say these things, and I can say it relatively articulate, but also I can take a lot of the flack from other people also. Do you know? And spin things in different ways. I think that sometimes some things that had happened sometimes at the bunker, that we had to talk about, or things that we did could have been spun a completely different way if it was another theatre. So for instance, what I mean by that is that, like, and this isn't me because I never made the building, but we had gender neutral toilets, right?
mm-hmm,
But it was gender neutral toilets from the offset, right? And we never made a big thing about
mm,
the fact that they were gender neutral toilets. You just walked in, they were gender neutral toilets. That I think maybe we had, or at least as far as I know, I had about maybe 5 complaints about them being gender neutral toilets. And I'm like, I don't go to another toilet then. I don't.
oh well.
but but we didn't have a massive uproar about it, did we? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it was what it was.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting that how you can spin things. Because if you're trying to put something up so you can get some woke points, for instance, or you can get the young people on board, or people that have normally trashed your institution, like, and you want to go, no, look, guys, we're okay. That's one thing, but just do it is actually the truth of the matter. Just do it. Just go, okay, this is the way it is. Like, and it's like when we did the first season, which was all female writers and directors actually. But I didn't say anything about it. It's just that other people did. Do you know what I mean? Like the
Yeah,
theatre
yeah,
reviewers and stuff, the theatre establishments, they said it. I didn't say it. I made a point of saying I didn't want to say anything about it because I felt like it was just the way that it should be.
yeah.
Um, and then in the second season, which we, barring Stephen Kavuma's festival, everybody was female writers. Well, actually, they were all female writers in Stephen Kavuma's festival, actually. So, is that right? No, they weren't, Abe. Anyway, but they were all female as well. But nobody said anything in the second season. So that's like a massive win, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, you know,
Yeah.
and it should just be the way it is, I guess. Yeah, so, but yeah, spin politician person, I might be all right in that. Yeah.
And one other question from 5 Avenue Marceau. He says, what were the sustainable structures slash systems slash things at the bunker that you could take forward into running buildings in the future?
You see, Grace comes in with that proper cerebral question at 11:30 in the morning on a Sunday. Thank you. Yeah, what I think the sustainable things, the structures that we can put into place. I think that there is a world of looking about what the parity of pay is between people. I think that especially if you're looking at something like ROH with that nonsense pay, and then people getting redundant.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's pure, like, come on. And also something like opera, which like normal people don't fucking go to. You know what I mean? So what are we paying for? Do you know what I mean? I don't,
Truly.
you know. So looking at the parity of pay, I also think that looking at the little things, looking at the tiny things are the most important things. And I think about this all the time. I think about this in relationships. I think about this in running buildings and directing. All of the little tiny things are the most important things, I think. So,
Mm-hmm.
and what appears to be little tiny might be massive. Like, so for instance, putting free sanitary towels in the toilets.
Yeah.
Like in my brain is a little thing. I know that it's a massive thing for the people that it's helping, and that's great. But in my brain, it's just a little twist. So it's just go, okay, well that seems clear to me. The logic being really fundamentally is that when you go into the toilet, there is toilet paper. So why not everything else? Like, do you know what I mean? That's completely equal for everybody else, and of course the period tax, which is unfair and everything, and it didn't cost any money, but it's a little thing for us. So putting out those little things and really thinking about everything as a civic space, as at the people that come into your building, artists or audience members or the cleaner, right? Is to go, how can I make this world better for them? Because the world outside might be shit, but how can I do a little thing which means that they feel better? And if it is just walking into the toilet and going, oh, there's a pad there, or if it is walking into the gender neutral toilet, or if it is being wheelchair accessible, or if it is somebody being really, really lovely and understanding your say your disability. Like Ed Feakston was really, really brilliant at doing all of the access stuff in the bunker, and talking to him, I think helped that you were seen. Do you know what I mean? But also the little things is this, right? Matthew Zia said this. One's the only AD to play old school UK garage in the bar. But like, see that thing, that moment there is to go, I'm going to put this on because I like it, but I know other people will like it, and we'll never see this in the theatre. So here, have a little bit of Artful Dodger or the Streets or whatever, right? And you walk in and you feel something. You feel like, oh, okay, this place gets me. It could be anything. It could be because I flipped it up all the time. I'm a lover of music. Music is, like, I like it much more than theatre. Let's be honest. It's just better. But if I put like Stormzy on, wicked. So a group of people come in, they like Stormzy, they go, okay, cool, this place is for me. Like, why does it have to be like, and there's a lot of like, I love this music, but why does it have to be Miles Davis or something? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what, I was trying to think of what the music would be, right? But also it's like a snobbishness of like music as well, isn't it? And, well, this is legitimate and this isn't legitimate. But to be honest with you, like Otis Redding, Stormzy, Kendrick Lamar, they're all like beautiful, brilliant musicians. And if I walk into a theatre and they're not playing music like that, then, and they're playing, I don't know, fucking Fleetwood Mac, which also good, but I'm gonna be like, cool, I know the vibe of the audience here. Do you know?
Like, Yeah, I think vibing in a theatre is something that's so undervalued in theatre nowadays, is like the little things that you can do that just make people feel like, oh, I belong here if they've never felt that before is
Yeah.
mad. So like when Barbershop Chronicles was on at the National, that's one of my favorite shows that they've ever put on because it just became a completely different space. And it was just filled with music and laughter and life. And all these people who probably would have never considered going to the theatre before would walk in and be like, okay, okay, I feel this. This is for me. I can be here. And that's the kind of stuff that we need more of.
Mm,
So,
definitely.
yeah.
And
Another
sometimes
question.
all it takes is the little thing there, right?
Sometimes,
You know, and
you know?
that's a big thing. Programming in Inua, who is phenomenal and such a kind, lovely person,
Mm,
but also a brilliant writer and a brilliant artist, brilliant poet. That's a massive thing, and that's brilliant too. Do that massive thing, but the little things you can't do that massive thing without them putting loads of things around it. So
yeah.
it shouldn't have been for Toby to go on that particular show. Oh, I'm going to make free tickets for young black people, and I'm going to try and figure out how to do that and pay for some of it on my own. It shouldn't have been for Toby to do that. It should have been for the
Mm,
National to go, right, we've got this
yeah.
play, we need to do it. And it should always be like that. The whole idea for Toby, I guess, I mean, I don't want to speak for her, is that she shouldn't have to do that for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but it should just,
It's an amazing thing that exists, and I'm so grateful to it and so happy about all the change that Black Ticket Project makes. But it is such a big thing for one person or one small team to
mm,
do that, theatres who have that financial and power and the amount of people behind that who can help facilitate that should really be taking on a lot of that
if, if
energy.
if the bunker would have continued and we could found the funding, we always had this conversation, and not necessarily with Toby, I might have had it once or twice, is that I wanted to get enough money so that the bunker could pay for Toby to do that.
Mm,
So that she could be based at the bunker, which is a
mm.
blessing or a curse, depending on it, to be able to do it. But I think theatres can do that. So I think somebody should be paying Toby as a consultant to be BTP in the
Yeah.
theatre for like 2 days a week or whatever, so that she can continue doing all her other work. You know, that's my fault. Anyway, if anyone's
No,
listening.
I agree. I agree. Um, God, running out of time already. Still, a couple more questions that have been sent in. So this one is from Lewis Ian Bray, who asks, has time away from the theatre given you a new perspective on how you want to move forward as a creative, and what would you like to explore next?
Yeah, it has. It's in some ways it's made me want to quit quite a lot of the time, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
It's been quite difficult for so many people, as I said, and I sometimes I don't think that I fit in. Also, you know, I think there's
Mm,
a lot of conversations being had, and part of this is me not trying to get into those conversations, but also I don't think I've been asked to be in those conversations, which is fine. Like, do you know what I mean? But it seems to me that a lot of people want to talk about one thing, whatever the bunker was, as this sort of legendary thing, which is weird, and then go, we need to make theatre a little bit more like that, and then to
mm,
not get the person or the people that were involved in doing that. Do you know what I mean? So it's
mm,
so it has made me feel a little bit like I don't have a space in the place, and also, am I going to work? And I need to work. So do I need to find a new job? Do I need to find a new profession? Because the only reason, remember, also that I got into this was to try and find a solid paycheck, because like art is lovely and it's a very sort of like cerebral, in the air kind of brilliant thing, but money is needed. Like for me, I don't have
yep,
mum and dad to pay my rent. Do you know what I mean? I'm still
yep.
got to pay this rent in London, and I don't
Can't
have a
buy
choice,
food
by the
with
way.
passion.
Listen, yeah, you can't, and that bullshit thing about, oh, the passionate are going to succeed, and
Mm,
whatever have you. Listen, fuck you. Do you know what I mean? Like, genuinely, fuck you. Because what does that mean? You mean the people that can afford to do that can continue, and actually, as if the bunker would be a testament to, the people that can't afford that to do are normally the better artists. So fuck your passion and put it in your Earl Grey tea and drink it. Like, do you know what I mean? Because like
absolutely.
it's just nonsense. But yeah, so it means that I also, yeah, I just wanted to say one thing about the sort of our London is trash situation. Look how much the rent is in London, all of that stuff. It's true, it is trash, isn't it? But have a thought for me, who was born in London in Zone 1, yeah, right. um, and in a council estate, I don't have a choice. I'm not going to move up to fucking Doncaster. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, I don't
yeah,
have anybody there. Like,
yeah,
you know, so just as a thought, but equally, it's hard out here. Do you know what I mean? It's hard out in London. It's hard out, and this is me saying I think I want to quit. Just a relatively successful white man. Like, imagine. I can only imagine. Do you know what I mean? What it feels like to be even a woman in that scenario, or you know, yeah. So it's difficult, and I hear you, and I try to find ways of trying to help other people, and for them to be the future. There's that saying in it about um, planting seeds for a tree that you will never see the shade of,
mm,
which I think is really lovely, and that's what I try to do in my brain a lot of the time. Do you know what I mean?
mm.
And however, planting seeds is going out of business. Do you know? So and nobody seems to be paying the gardener. So um,
Yeah,
I might have to leave it, and that's difficult because I've been doing this for time. Do you know what I mean? I suppose,
mm,
and it's like I'm 35. I was my birthday was in lockdown as well. That was fun. But I'm 35 now. Like, it's that time in your life where you kind of want to go, well, I need to settle down or do something. Do you know what I mean? Like, and have a bit more outside of this world, because all I've got is theatre. Like,
mm.
yeah, I mean, and apart from my lovely partner, but and my friends, but all I've got is theatre really, because everything is based
Yeah.
around theatre, and that's such a big part of me that I'm realizing that maybe it shouldn't be. You know?
I think especially as a working class artist, theatre becomes your whole life because you have to put your whole life into it to do it.
Mm,
So
yeah,
it's like you're spending all your free time making art, and any time that you have on the side, you're trying to work so that you can afford to spend your free time making art. So it just gets to the point that your whole life is theatre because logistically, that is the only way you can do it. So
yeah,
it is a bit mad to get to this point where it's like, I don't know if I can keep doing it anymore, um,
it's a
which is
madness.
hard. It's hard.
Yeah, yeah.
But on the other side of that coin, Tanya Loretta D asks, are you hopeful that the theatre industry in the future will have a new structural model slash changes and slash, or do you have a hopeful vision for the future of the industry at this time?
I think yeah, I want hope, because hope is the key. You know, the two things that I think we miss a lot is kindness and hope. And I think we need that more than ever. And we needed it before. Let's be fair, but
Mm,
we need it more than ever. Um, my hope would be this: is that they take away those little barriers in between theatres, and say actually community theatre is valid, is the same as the theatre in the bigger, in the Olivia or whatever,
mm,
and actually for us to continue and make work in socially distanced ways, or bringing communities together and stuff that's important. We are going to find a way to integrate that into all of our work, and for us to inform all of our work. You know, in many ways, that, like, again, I just say it, but in many ways the community work at the core informed all of the bunker stuff, because so many of
mm.
the writers were either engaged in community work from me, or I found them in a town hall meeting in Tottenham, like Stephen Kavuma. Like, do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I mean, I didn't find him, like, he was always there. So he exists as a
he
human
was
being.
there at the same time.
Yeah, we happened to be in the same room at the same time, and I went,
Yeah.
I'm this kid that doesn't look like he likes me at all. I'm going to talk to him and see what he wants. Um, and so that was, so yeah, so that was be my hope. And that same goes with youth theatre as well. Also, that means that the demographic of people that are coming and performing and participating are completely changed. I think
Mm,
I think that we could not, especially over the time of Corona, with Black Lives Matter, and the absolute murder of George Floyd, that that we that theatres have a much more political outlook, and to say that the politics doesn't have to be big P's. It doesn't have to be you making a statement. It's just about going, I'm going to commit to at least just being representative of black writers, and the global majority in general, but black writers, and say, well, in our borough of let's say Islington, there is 35% Afro-Caribbean identifying people. So we have to have at least 35%
Mm-hmm.
black writers and black directors in our building.
Mm.
And that's a politics. That's a politics, and it's very simple to do, and put class into that as well. But we need to be doing that. I think theatre needs to be doing that and really just wearing its politics on its chest. And that's not to say, I understand also, I remember when I put a statement out, which I find funny, Twitter needs to calm down sometimes, yeah, is that when I said, listen, we sent out a newsletter saying, the bunker did, saying, you cannot vote Boris Johnson in, he's a fucking idiot, right? All of that shit. Now, everybody was like, oh my God, that's amazing, look at the bunker, brilliant. But in that fucking email, I said, the reason that other theatres can't do this is because they're charities and they can't push out their politics, right? They can't
Mm-hmm.
say, vote for this person, vote for that person. They can't do it, just otherwise they lose their charityship, right?
Yeah.
But everyone was like, why doesn't other theatres do it? I was like, I explained. I told you why. Like, chill out. But there's other ways of being political, and I guess in many ways that, like, even just putting my best friend on that live stream is political. And I know Vicky personally and love her dearly, and she is overtly political. Do you know what I mean? And that's great. But I just hope that everybody else is, and trying to change the world. I think, listen, if you walk into that theatre, be it just to the bar or to the toilet because you don't want to pay 25p or whatever it is to use a toilet,
Yeah.
or you go and see a show, you should leave that building a little bit better. And that's a politic too. So I don't know what the original fucking question was, man. I just went on a rant.
It was about hope for the future.
Oh yeah,
and
hope for the future.
Yeah, I think you answered that. Like, yeah, I think being able to get to the point where people can say the things that they say and say the things that they believe with their chest is just like what we need. Like, you do that all the time. As someone who follows you on Twitter, I'm just like, yes, this makes me happy. But if we could just have more people who felt empowered enough to like speak from their chest, but were also given the levels of like power and influence that you need to be able to disseminate that message, then I think that's probably like a path to hope for the future. Yeah, Tanya Loretta D says you answered it, so you're all good.
Cheers, Tanya.
I think that's a pretty good question to actually end on, because I've just realized the time, and I said I was going to keep this under an hour, and you have to eat lunch and all that jazz. So unless anyone who is watching has like a very final, very quick question, I think we'll probably wrap up. I'll give you like 10 seconds to
can we do this again, Tricia? But I interview you because.
But you asked me questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I don't know if anyone would want to watch that, but I'm here for it.
Yeah, but I think your voice is more important than my voice.
Chris, stop. If white men said that to me more often, I would be so happy.
But I think it's important, isn't it? This is a weird demographic. This is a weird, not a demographic. This is a weird hierarchical situation. You're asking me, but I think I could learn more from you, and I think everybody else would learn more from you and your perspective of being a black writer, female.
We'll do it
in this world. Let's do it.
Yeah, we'll make it happen. Okay, we'll do it. I'm saying it. I'm putting it out in the atmosphere. We're doing it. Your last question is favorite rapper you have to pick from the list.
Oh no, this is a problem. You can't do that to me on the spot. Listen, can I just in 1999, I don't want to say this because but in 1999, Marshall Mathers released an album called Slim Shady LP, and I wasn't even into rap at that point. I was 14 years old, and I got that album, and I was like, whoa, what's that? And then he made me go, oh, who's that? What's he? Because he was ripping off Styles and that, like, and I'm going, all of that stuff. And so it allowed me to go into rap and figure it all out. But I think my favorite probably for the last couple of years is canine. So that took a swerve, didn't it?
Well, that brings us to the end, though. So thank you for your time,
wait.
Chris.
Somebody said, Chris, ask her a question. Five, I'm going to ask you a question. Can I ask you a question? Is that
Okay.
cool?
Yeah, go for it.
What is your hope for theatre?
My hope for theatre. I think it's very similar to yours. I think what we need is people who are engaged with the issues around them and care about them. Because I think a lot of when we get sort of soulless theatre, it's from people who aren't engaged in the issues and they don't care. And you can't fake that. Like, you can't pretend to care. You can't do it. It doesn't work. But a lot of the people who do care are the people who can't financially support themselves doing all of this stuff for free, or all of this stuff for low pay, or for just expenses, or just for passion. So the only way really that, in my head, that theatre actually gets better and theatre actually gets more representative and theatre is actually the powerful medium for change that it's meant to be, is for those people to be able to be like encouraged and enabled to have their voice and express their voice and have those stages for it and get paid so that they can live. That's my only thing. So if after all of this, people are like, you know what? Yeah, we actually do need good theatre. We need theatre that says something. We need theatre that believes something. So let's pay people so that they can make that theatre. Then we're good. But if we fall back into this whole, well, you know, we haven't made a lot of money as a theatre, so we need to put on a really good commercial show so that people will come and watch our theatres and buy our £25 gins, then theatre is going to become like opera, and it's going to become that thing that only people with lots of money can afford.
And
then,
their audience is going to die, right?
Yeah. The audiences are going to die. They haven't put any money, any time, or any effort into engaging the people who are actually still alive, and then theatre dies, literally. So...
Okay, to be continued then.
But we'll sort out an actual thing. You can interview me if you want, and we'll get it done.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris. This has been great. Thank you to everyone for watching and listening and engaging with me and Chris. This has been fab. I'll let you know when Chris is going to interview me, and it'll be lots of fun. I hope everyone has a great Sunday. I hope you have a great Sunday, Chris, and your partner who you met and you didn't tell me that story. So I'm going to remember that. I'm going to get that story from you. All right, I'm going to let you go.
Thank you. See you later.
Bye, Chris. Bye, everybody. Have a lovely rest of your weekend.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.